I realized I wasn't good enough to be a B-boy. My graffiti was at best lackluster, and my parents didn't have enough extra money for us to have Techniques 1200s. So I guess technically either rapping along, I wrote one verse one time and rapped it to myself in my room, but that was it. So I never really tried to do any of it. But then also at the time when I was growing up, there wasn't that much rap. And as a 10, 11-year-old, the thing I didn't understand was that, or I didn't appreciate and make it make sense for me as a kid, I didn't understand that these guys were all 5, 10, 15 years older than me that I was listening to. Because I remember thinking like, man, I could never write a story like Dana Dane Nightmares, or The Show by Dougie Fresh and MC Ricky D, or Go See the Doctor by Kool Moe Dee, or PSK by Schoolie D, or Roxanne Roxanne by UTFO, or just I Need a Beat by LL Cool J. Like I never, as a 10, 11-year-old, it just didn't register to me for whatever reason that, oh, these guys are a lot older than me. And they have years and years of reading, writing, thinking, creative benefit that I didn't have at that point. So my mentality was, when I was around 12 and I realized I wanted to be involved in the rap industry in some capacity, I tried to figure out something that I could do from Maryland. And, you know, my parents are school teachers, they're both retired now, but in Maryland, there's no rap industry per se. I didn't have any relatives that were in the music industry. My parents didn't know anyone in the music industry. And then, of course, at this time, rap wasn't even that big, relatively speaking, to where it is now. So I was in a vacuum in Maryland, and I just was trying to figure out how I could get involved. And I was interested in journalism because I grew up in Gambrills, Maryland, which is right in between Baltimore and DC. It's about 20 miles from each. And I realized that the reporters were always going somewhere cool, or they were always covering the news, and they were like writing about important things, much in the way that I felt the rappers were, because they were the street reporters. They were telling us stories that were different than what we would see on the evening news or reading a newspaper. So I was like, oh, that's kind of cool. And then in being able to get the Baltimore and the Washington news stations and radio stations and television, you saw that for us, the local news was Washington, D.C. and what's going on with the laws and the government and all that. That's our local news, because that's, people in my school, parents work for the government. Some of my relatives work for the government. So, and the government is a massive enterprise. So to be based there, I kind of realized that the people from all over the United States and all over the world came to where I lived, because this is the epicenter of the United States as far as the government. So as I got a little older, man, I was like, oh man, let me figure out this journalism thing. And then when I got to college, I started writing, and because I wanted to write about rap, and I knew that I knew a good amount about rap, and I was like, oh, well, writing is something that could be cool. If I, had the Source magazine, and I was like, oh man, I'd love to be able to write about rap like this. And when I got my first assignment, and I got paid $5 for it, I was like, wait a minute, I can get paid to do this in college? I said, let me try this let me push a little harder. And that really started it, because it opened my eyes to not only being able to do it, but the $5, of course, didn't change my life, but the idea changed my life. And that's really what got me all up and running.